From Anshei Sphard-Beth Emeth congregation, it's time to take 10 minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.
Welcome to our discussion of Parshat Vayeshev, role models. Usually when we look at the Parshiot of Bereshit, the Genesis stories, we think of the role models of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. And sometimes when we look at Joseph, look at him as perhaps a braggart. We look at the story of Judah and Tamar, unseemly story of which involves, in some ways, prostitution, in some ways, some nasty business. I think that not many role models here. But actually, in this new book by Rabbi Soloveitchik, Vision and Leadership, Rabbi Joseph B. Soloveitchik, the Rav of my Rabbi Zichrono Livracha, blessed memory, outlines for us in ways in which Joseph and the more obscure figure of Tamar serve as true role models for us, not only individually, but also collectively as well. Look at Joseph. We ask ourselves, really, did it have to be that bad? I mean, one thing to be sold down to slavery. It's another that first he went to the Ishmaelim, the Arab merchants. Then he went to the Midianites. Then he went to Potiphar. Sris Paro, Sar HaTabachim. Potiphar was perhaps a eunuch. He was perhaps the chief butcher. However, the expression butcher, as we know in English as well, can have another connotation. And Rabbi Soloveitchik suggested he's actually the chief executioner. You can imagine the sensitivity and the personality of the chief executioner of Egypt. Rough, coarse individual. Why did it have to be so difficult? Go down to jail, go through all that. In the end, he rises to great power and has a magnificent life as the viceroy in Egypt and then is eventually reunited with his family. But why so much trial and travail on the way there? Rabbi Soloveitchik tells us is that until you have that ripe moment, until it's Miketz Shnatayim Yamim, until next week's Parsha, where it's exactly the end of those 2 years of who knows what we went through in the dungeons of Egypt, it's not until that exact moment that we're ready. Until then, there is suffering. There are trials and travails. They're very difficult experiences we must go through. And why all these strange characters? Why does Joseph have to be introduced to the chief executioner, the seductress of Egypt? What's going on? Rabbi Soloveitchik says that sometimes when we live in a holy environment, Joseph growing up in the home of Jacob, Isaac was still alive. Amazing to experience that, the piety, the individuals communing with God. I mean, with all the stories about Jacob, in the end, he's a dreamer. He's a man who sees angels everywhere. To grow up in a home like that, you would think would be amazing. Rabbi Soloveitchik says you can clearly see that the brothers, Joseph and all of them, took it all for granted. That's the way it is. To have 12 brothers, sister, to have such a wonderful family, all these different loving mothers, could be a wonderful thing. But for them, just the way it was. And Rabbi Soloveitchik relates it to his family, growing up with the father, Rabbi Moshe Soloveitchik, a great Talmudist, the grandfather and the great-grandfather of Chaim Soloveitchik, Rabbi Chaim Brisker, and the Beis Halevi, going back to Chaim Volozhin, back to the Vilna Gaon, the great Rebbes. He said he didn't appreciate it. And strangely, and this is a terrible admission, that when he went out to Berlin, to the University of Berlin, and he saw the supposed scholars and saints of the secular world, then he understood my grandfather was truly a great and kind man. My father was truly a pious man. Sometimes you need that. You need to go out and meet the butcher of Egypt and understand what a Jacob was. To meet the wife of Potiphar and understand what your mother, what Rachel, and what Leah and Bilhah and Zilpah, what they were. Sometimes we need to learn by contrast what the Jewish people are. You look all around the Middle East. You look sometimes at our best and brightest in the United States, and you say, thank God we are part of the Jewish people. Our heroes are Soloveitchik and Rabbi Feinstein, Zichronam Livracha, Rabbi Lichtenstein, these are our role models. And then we ask, how is it important personally and how is it important nationally? Personally, it's important to understand the Joseph story because isn't that our history? The history of a Jewish people who went through so much, and you ask, why so much? Do we really have to go through the Crusades and the Inquisition and the expulsion from Spain and the Chmielsky pogroms and the Kishinev pogroms and the Holocaust and so much, and to this day, stabbings and shootings and bombings and missiles? Why so much? Because we're not ready for the Kates, for the end of the magnificent saga that God weaves, the most magnificent story in human history, a 2,000-year-old story of what it takes to become the Jewish people, and to have the Messiah, to end the end of days. We're working on it. Every trial and travail we go through, it's one step on the way toward Mashiach. And that's true on the personal level too. Why is life so difficult? So many intricate conflicts with individuals and people and people's feelings and the politics, whether it's in your own family, whether it's in your work environment, whether it's the national crises you read about. So complex, so difficult. Why? Why? Because in order to get where we want to go, even to be a mature, wise individual, we have to go through that. And it may not end when we get to the golden years and these years and those years. It's part of life. It's part of what it means to be Joseph, to be a human being. Finally, Tamar. Tamar was told, Ag yigdal shela b'nei, you married my first son, he died. You married my second son, he died. As far as the third son goes, wait until he grows up. It'll be a little later. And everyone, Rabbi Soloveitchik said, must have mocked her and laughed at her. You're never going to get married. You're never going to marry this Shelah, the third son. It ain't going to happen. What are you doing? You're living in a dream world. Face the reality. Of course, Tamar took matters in her own hands, but she insisted on waiting. And that trait of being able to wait is such another important value. Individually, to wait for the right time to do certain things. And also, nationally, we have waited. Throughout our history, Christians and others have come to us and said, you foolish people, can't you see the writings on the wall? We're victorious, you're downtrodden. The Jews, always the subject of scorn and anti-Semitism. Give it up. Become part of us. You don't have to worry about all these problems. And like Tamar, we said, no, we're waiting for something very special. And she waited, and she was able to marry Judah. She was able to have twins, and one of them was Peretz. And Peretz, the father of Yishai. Yishai is the father of David, and David is the father of Messiah himself. When we wait, when we suffer, and we wait in this world, great things await us. Maybe our children, our grandchildren, who knows when it is. We have to know all the suffering in human life. God puts it, He puts those tears in his storage house of tears. And it's that storage house that eventually leads to the salvation of the world. Thank you for joining us here at the Anshei Sphard-Beth Emeth congregation for our discussion of the Parsha. Join us each week for a discussion of various Parshiot, holidays, upcoming events. We wish everyone a happy Hanukkah, and we thank our producer, Jason Lefkowitz. Thank you.
This has been 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein. To learn more, visit ASBEE.org.